Close your eyes for a moment and observe your habits not with judgment but with quiet awareness. There are many things you consume each day without question. Food enters your body, thoughts enter your mind, and desires enter your heart. Yet not everything you take in nourishes you. You eat the tomato without thinking, believing it is just food. But what if the tomato is not only meant to be eaten? What if it carries a deeper purpose, one that has been forgotten over time? Long ago, people understood that the world is not only physical. Everything carries energy: what you touch, what you see, what you place in your space. The tomato, bright and full of life, was not only valued for taste but for the quiet force it holds. Its color reflects vitality, its form symbolizes wholeness, and its presence attracts attention without effort. But today people rush. They consume without awareness. They eat without gratitude. They seek attraction in complicated ways, chasing after approval, wealth, and connection, yet ignoring what is already within reach. Listen carefully, attraction does not come from force. It comes from alignment. If you wish to attract abundance, peace, or even the attention of others, you must first understand the flow of energy around you. The ancient ones knew that certain objects, when placed with intention, could shift this flow. The tomato was one of them, not because of magic, but because of awareness. Instead of consuming it immediately, try something different. Place it where your eyes can meet it. Let it sit in your space as a reminder. Each time you see it, pause. Breathe, become aware of your thoughts. Are they filled with lack or with gratitude? Are you chasing or are you allowing? The tomato becomes a mirror, not of your face but of your inner state. When you stop acting on impulse, you begin to see clearly. When you stop consuming without thought, you begin to receive without effort. This is the shift. People search for attraction hacks, secrets, shortcuts. But the truth is simple: what you attract reflects what you hold within. If your mind is restless, your life becomes restless. If your mind is calm, your life begins to settle. So the practice is not about the tomato itself. It is about breaking the cycle of unconscious action. It is about bringing awareness into the smallest things. Take one tomato, hold it in your hand. Feel its weight, notice its color. Then place it gently in your space, not as decoration but as intention. Each day, sit near it for a moment. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts pass like clouds. Do not chase them. Do not fight them. Just observe. In this stillness, something begins to change. You no longer seek attraction because you are no longer empty. And when you are not empty, things begin to come to you naturally, like a river flowing toward the sea. This is the ancient way. Not loud, not complicated, not desperate. Quiet, simple, and aware. So stop eating your tomatoes, at least for a while. Not because food is wrong, but because awareness is missing. And when awareness returns, you will realize the power you were seeking was never in the object. It was always within you. Unconscious consumption blocks awareness. Most people consume things, food, thoughts, desires, without awareness. This unconscious habit disconnects them from deeper understanding and inner clarity. Most people move through their day in a constant state of consumption without ever realizing it. They eat quickly, think rapidly, react instantly, and desire endlessly. There is no pause between these actions, no space where awareness can arise. Food is placed in the mouth while the mind is somewhere else. Thoughts are accepted without question, as if every passing idea must be true. Emotions are followed blindly, as if they are commands rather than temporary waves. In this state, life becomes automatic and the individual becomes a passenger rather than the driver. When consumption happens without awareness, it creates a kind of inner heaviness. It is not just the body that becomes burdened, but the mind as well. Each unconscious action leaves a subtle imprint. Eating without attention dulls the senses. Thinking without observation creates confusion. Desiring without understanding leads to restlessness. Over time, these patterns form a cycle that is difficult to break. A person begins to feel stuck, not because the world is limiting them, but because they are no longer fully present within it. Consider how often you reach for something without truly knowing why. Hunger may not be present, yet you eat. Silence may be available, yet you fill it with noise. Stillness may be within reach, yet you avoid it. This is not a failure, but a habit, one that has been repeated so many times that it feels natural. But what feels natural is not always what is true. Much of what people call normal is simply unconscious repetition. When awareness is absent, even something as simple as eating a tomato becomes mechanical. The eyes do not truly see it, the hands do not truly feel it, and the mind does not acknowledge it. It is consumed and then it is gone. There is no connection, no presence, no understanding of what just occurred. This may seem small, but it reflects a much larger pattern. The same lack of awareness appears in conversations, in decisions, in relationships, and even in the way people pursue their goals. To live this way is to miss the depth of life itself. Awareness is what transforms ordinary actions into meaningful experiences. Without it, everything becomes shallow, repetitive, and unfulfilling. A person may have many things, yet still feel empty because they have never truly been present with what they have. The moment you begin to observe your actions even slightly, a shift occurs. You notice the impulse before you act. You see the thought before you believe it. You feel the emotion without immediately reacting to it. This space, small as it may seem, is where freedom begins. It allows you to choose rather than simply follow. Breaking the habit of unconscious consumption does not require force or restriction. It begins with simple awareness. One mindful moment can interrupt an entire chain of automatic behavior. Over time, these moments grow and what was once unconscious becomes clear. What was once heavy becomes lighter. In this clarity, you start to understand that it is not what you consume that shapes your life, but how you consume it. Awareness brings balance, and balance brings peace. And from this peace, a different way of living quietly emerges, one that is no longer driven by habit, but guided by presence. Objects carry energy and symbolism. Even simple things like a tomato hold symbolic and energetic value. When used with intention instead of habit, they can influence your mindset and environment. There was a time when people did not see the world as empty objects scattered without meaning. They understood in a quiet and intuitive way that everything carried a presence beyond its physical form. What they touched, what they placed in their homes, even what they chose to keep near them, these were not random decisions. There was a sensitivity to the subtle, an awareness that every object held a kind of silent influence over the mind and the space it occupied. Today, this sensitivity has faded. Objects are judged only by their practical use or their immediate pleasure. A tomato is seen merely as something to eat, a simple ingredient without deeper significance. Yet when something is reduced to only its function, its broader impact is overlooked. Not because the impact has disappeared, but because the awareness of it has been lost. Every object you bring into your space affects you in ways that are not always obvious. Colors influence mood, shapes guide attention, and presence itself creates a certain feeling. A bright red tomato, for example, naturally draws the eye. It stands out without effort, holding a quiet vibrancy. This is not something you need to believe in, it is something you can observe directly. When placed in a room, it does not disappear into the background. It calls attention gently but consistently. In earlier times, such qualities were not ignored. People used objects intentionally, not as decoration alone, but as tools for shaping their inner and outer environment. They understood that what surrounds you can either support clarity or create distraction. A carefully placed object could serve as a reminder, a point of focus, or even a grounding presence in moments of restlessness. The power of such objects does not come from anything mystical or supernatural. It comes from the relationship you form with them. When you place something with intention, it becomes more than an item, it becomes a symbol. And symbols have a unique ability to communicate with the mind without words. They influence your thoughts not by force, but by quiet repetition. Each time your eyes meet the object, it gently brings your attention back, reminding you of something deeper. Without awareness, this effect goes unnoticed. You may still be influenced, but you are not conscious of it. The mind responds automatically, shaped by surroundings it does not fully register. This is why many people feel unsettled in certain spaces without knowing why, or calm in others without being able to explain it. The environment is always speaking even when you are not listening. When you begin to understand this, your relationship with objects changes. You no longer fill your space randomly. You become more selective, more intentional. Even a simple tomato can take on a new role, not as something to be consumed immediately, but as something to be experienced, observed, and allowed to exist in your space with purpose. This shift is subtle, but it is powerful. It turns passive living into active awareness. It reminds you that meaning is not something added from outside, but something revealed through attention. And as your awareness deepens, you begin to see that nothing around you is truly insignificant. Everything has the potential to influence you, and with awareness you can begin to choose that influence consciously, rather than leaving it to chance. Attraction comes from inner alignment. True attraction is not about chasing or forcing outcomes. It naturally happens when your thoughts, emotions, and inner state are calm and aligned. Many people spend their lives trying to attract things: success, attention, love, wealth, yet their efforts often feel exhausting and incomplete. They chase opportunities, seek validation, and force outcomes, believing that attraction is something achieved through struggle. But the more they chase, the further these things seem to move away. This is because true attraction does not respond to force, it responds to alignment. Alignment begins within. It is the state where your thoughts, emotions, and inner condition move in harmony rather than conflict. When the mind is filled with doubt, fear, or urgency, it creates a kind of disturbance. Even if your actions appear confident on the surface, this inner disturbance shapes your energy in subtle ways. People can sense it, situations reflect it, and outcomes often mirror this imbalance. It is not that the world is working against you, it is simply responding to what you are holding inside. Consider how different it feels to be around someone who is calm and grounded compared to someone who is restless and anxious. The calm person does not need to demand attention, it naturally comes to them. Their presence feels steady, and this steadiness creates trust. On the other hand, the restless person may try harder, speak louder, or act more, yet still feel unseen. Effort increases, but attraction decreases. This is the difference between forcing and allowing. When you are aligned, you are not empty or seeking completion from the outside. Instead, you feel whole within yourself. This sense of wholeness changes how you move through the world. Your actions become more natural, your words more sincere, and your decisions more clear. There is less hesitation, less overthinking, and less need to prove anything. In this state, you are no longer chasing outcomes, you are creating conditions where outcomes can come to you. This does not mean doing nothing. It means acting without inner conflict. When your intention is clear and your mind is calm, your actions carry a different quality. They are not driven by fear of loss or desire for approval, but by a quiet confidence. This confidence is not loud or aggressive, it is subtle yet deeply felt. It is a kind of presence that draws others in without effort. The idea of alignment can seem abstract, but it becomes real through awareness. You begin by observing your inner state. Are your thoughts scattered or focused? Are your emotions heavy or light? Are you acting from a place of pressure or from a place of clarity? These questions are not meant to judge you, but to help you see what is already there. As you observe, small adjustments begin to happen naturally. You let go of thoughts that create tension. You pause before reacting to emotions. You choose actions that feel balanced rather than forced. Over time, these small shifts create a deeper sense of stability within you. From this stability, attraction becomes effortless. People respond to your presence differently. Opportunities appear in unexpected ways. Situations begin to flow rather than resist. It is not because you have gained control over everything, but because you are no longer creating resistance within yourself. In the end, attraction is not something you acquire, it is something you allow. When you are aligned, you stop pushing against life and life stops pushing against you. What you seek begins to move toward you, not because you demanded it, but because you created the space for it to arrive naturally. Awareness transforms ordinary actions by pausing, observing, and becoming mindful. Even with small actions, you shift from automatic living to conscious living, which changes your energy. Most actions in daily life are performed without presence. You wake up and reach for your phone without noticing the movement. You eat while thinking about something else. You walk, speak, and even listen, yet your mind is somewhere far away. In this state, life becomes a continuous stream of automatic responses. Nothing is fully experienced, and because of that, nothing leaves a deep sense of fulfillment. The transformation begins not with something grand, but with something small. Awareness does not demand dramatic change, it asks only that you begin to notice. When you bring attention to a simple act, it stops being ordinary. It becomes clear, alive, and meaningful. This is the quiet power of awareness. It does not add anything new, but it reveals what was always there. Imagine taking a single moment to pause before acting. Just one breath before you reach out, before you speak, before you react. In that brief pause, you step out of the automatic cycle. You are no longer being carried by habit, you are choosing your next movement consciously. This choice may seem small, but it changes the entire quality of the action that follows. Even something as simple as placing an object in your space can become a practice of awareness. When done unconsciously, it is just another movement. But when done with attention, it becomes intentional. You notice the way your hand moves, the way the object feels, the place where it rests. Your mind is no longer rushing ahead, it is present with what is happening now. As you repeat this kind of awareness, a shift begins to occur. The mind, which was once scattered, starts to settle. Thoughts may still arise, but they no longer pull you in every direction. You begin to see them as they are temporary, passing, and not always true. This creates a sense of space within you, a space where calmness can grow. This calmness is not something you force. It appears naturally when the noise begins to fade, and with this calmness comes clarity. You start to understand your actions more deeply. You see the difference between what is necessary and what is impulsive. You recognize when you are acting Hebrew mem, Hebrew tav, Hebrew vav, Hebrew kaf habit, and when you are acting Hebrew mem, Hebrew tav, Hebrew vav, Hebrew kaf awareness. Over time, this awareness extends beyond small actions. It enters your conversations, your decisions, and your relationships. You listen more fully, speak more thoughtfully, and respond rather than react. Life slows down not in time, but in experience. Each moment feels more complete. In this way, awareness transforms everything without changing anything on the surface. The same actions remain, but their quality is different. What was once automatic becomes intentional. What was once empty becomes meaningful. And through this simple shift, a deeper sense of balance begins to take root within you. The real power is within you. The tomato is only a tool or reminder. The true source of attraction and change lies within your awareness, not in any external object. In the search for change, people often look outward. They search for the right object, the perfect method, the hidden secret that will transform their lives. They believe that something outside them holds the power they are missing. Because of this belief, they move from one thing to another, trying, hoping, and often feeling disappointed when nothing truly lasts. But what is rarely questioned is this: who is the one using these methods? What is the state of the mind that is seeking change? If the mind remains restless, doubtful, or unaware, then no object, no matter how special it seems, can bring lasting transformation. It may create a temporary shift, a brief sense of hope or excitement, but it will fade, because the source of imbalance was never addressed. The idea that power lies outside is comforting because it removes responsibility. If something else holds the answer, then there is no need to look within. But this comfort comes at a cost. It keeps you dependent, always searching, never arriving. True change begins the moment you turn your attention inward and observe what is already present. When you begin to watch your thoughts, you notice how quickly they move. One thought leads to another, often without any awareness. Some create worry, others create desire, and many repeat the same patterns again and again. If you are not aware of them, they shape your experience silently. They influence your decisions, your mood, and even the way you see the world. The same is true for emotions. They rise, they stay for a while, and they pass. Yet in their presence, it is easy to believe that they define you. You may say, "I am anxious," or "I am unhappy," without realizing that these are temporary states, not permanent identities. When you observe them without attachment, a small distance appears. In that distance, you begin to see clearly. This clarity reveals something important. The power you were seeking was never in the object, but in your awareness of it. An object can remind you, it can guide your attention, but it cannot create awareness for you. That must come from within. When awareness is present, even the simplest things become meaningful. Without it, even the most powerful tools lose their effect. As this understanding deepens, the need to rely on external solutions begins to fade. You no longer feel the urge to constantly search for something new. Instead, you begin to explore your own mind with curiosity and patience. You notice patterns, you understand reactions, and slowly you begin to change, not by force, but by insight. This inner shift brings a quiet confidence. It is not loud or visible, but it is steady. You trust your ability to observe, to understand, and to respond with clarity. Life may still bring challenges, but you are no longer overwhelmed by them in the same way. In the end, the realization is simple yet profound. Nothing outside you can replace the awareness within you. Once this is understood, the search changes direction. It no longer moves outward in endless seeking, but inward, where true transformation begins and quietly unfolds.